I'm sure Lydia will bring this up, but she keeps telling me that I talk really slowly. And that because I have this, like, a deeper voice, it's like slow and deep. I'm like, this is a pretty harsh criticism. But hello, this is Soleh with the intro today. This is If You Were in Charge, brought to you by the Robert Bosch Academy and ICAN. Yeah, hello, hi, mommy. How are you?
I'm fine. That's great. You can do the intros in season 2 if we get there. So we've done 9 podcasts. What's your sense? When we started until now, like, what's it been like for you actually?
I mean, it's been fun. I don't know that I even fully believed that we were gonna do it at the beginning.
You don't know your mother, do you?
I do. So I didn't believe it till it was happening, but yeah. But no, it's been fun. I mean, it was nice to have Liddy for the one episode, and she'll be featuring today too.
I know, I'm hoping she's going to join us. Yeah.
But yeah, generally it's been nice to be finally acknowledged as the favorite child. So yeah.
I think Lyd has had a lot of FOMO, but hopefully she'll come in.
How have you found it since you've been doing all the interviews and kind of chatting with these people?
You know, I really had a great time actually. It's been really interesting to hear people and to be able to give them the space to talk about their own work, but also like just the concept, just the premise of, okay, so if you're in charge, lift your head and imagine, and if you're a billionaire, and the whole question of hope. I think one of the things that I found interesting across the different interviews is that when I've said what gives you hope, a lot of people have paused.
Yeah, I've noticed that too. Like, oh,
but also, like, I don't know whether they're feeling hopeless or hopeful, but
well, it's just probably not a question that they get particularly often, right?
Yeah, maybe that could be. Yeah, it's actually that's the other thing, that it's sort of the blending of their knowledge and the work that they do, right? With all the issues they know about, and then how they're dealing with it, and then the kind of the personal twist on it. I found that's been a really nice part of the conversation, that and everybody's been happy to sort of speak freely and speak openly. I thought that was nice.
Well, that's kind of the advantage of, like, the whole premise of the podcast, right? Like, giving people the place to kind of be like, but this is my actual opinion, because in most places probably these people can't just be like, well, I think, and then kind of just say whatever they want. Maybe they work with an institution or a company or something like that. Yeah, you can see sometimes that they're like, oh, let me just actually say all the things that I think.
The construct of the podcast of saying, if you were in charge, just to allow people to imagine, I think is really important, because in my research in Germany, when I was sort of doing my fellowship on problems of polarization and social cohesion and what could be done, I'm talking to people and they're telling me about their own work on how they're, in education, trying to sort of get rid of forms of discrimination that are implicit in the textbooks, or community work that they're doing with, I don't know, refugees and migrants and stuff. And then when I would say, okay, so if you were in charge, what would you do? It's almost as if all the bureaucratic and institutional and, political constraints, like all those ropes that hold people down, kind of keep them so locked up that freeing themselves to sort of say, actually, what should be done, it takes them a little while to get into that headspace. And so that's kind of why I thought it would be interesting to have these conversations, because it's like, we're all, again, it's like that idea of the metaphor of, you're walking towards up a mountain, and you're focused so much on that one step at a time sort of approach, that you're not actually looking up and looking around and looking at what else is going on and stuff. So I don't know. I hope listeners liked, or appreciated that part as well. So which one did you have a favorite one? Were there sort of aha moments in different ones?
in terms of like which one was fun to record, I thought that obviously the conservation optimism one was fun. But in terms of aha moment, maybe I think it was the two Middle East ones were probably the ones that I knew the least about, in terms of kind of the specifics, like what they were talking about. So they were kind of the most, I guess, aha moment is a good phrase, and then kind of getting the two perspectives was really cool. So yeah, which one was your favorite?
It's been the same thing. I've sort of had these moments where I'm like, oh my God, this is an extraordinary person, right? Like in each way. And I mean, for example, when I listen to Meredith talk about Signal and the fact that back in the 1990s when they made the laws, they were allowed to commercialize data. Like again, it's like these aha moments of I was like, oh, that makes sense now of why things work in the same. And again, I freely admit that I'm a complete Luddite when it comes to anything to do with technology and so forth. But it's like we're immersed in it. It's such a sort of Wi-Fi or hardwired into our lives right now, and it's just like these moments where you're like, oh, I didn't know about that, or for example, again, the Middle East ones, the conversation obviously both with Hanan about him speaking about the ideology, which I thought was really important, and then at the same time talking to Muhammad and the experience of life as a Palestinian citizen of Israel. We don't often hear about that, right? And of course, what I if and when we do a next season, I will definitely make sure that we have Palestinian perspective from the West Bank and Gaza if possible. But so often we think about the Palestinian issue from the standpoint of the occupied territories, and we don't really talk about the differences, the tensions, the reality, the bridges between those who are inside and outside. So I thought that was really great. Kelly was just heart-wrenching, and also, again, you talked about growing up in Washington and understanding the tensions that come with the police, right? But to be somebody who, is, her age, her sort of social or economic status, kind of in the world that she lived in. I mean, as a interior designer, and then suddenly kind of hitting this reality. I thought that was just very, very striking. Yeah. And then Abby Disney was extraordinary. That was a great conversation. It was just kind of, so yeah, it's kind of like I'm going through, I think this last conversation with Steve Watt was wonderful. Again, not necessarily, obviously his views and his sort of scholarly work and analysis of US politics, but just as a person, what a great guy. I'd like to go sit in his classes, or I wish you'd taken some of his classes when you were up there. So
it has been interesting also to like talk to my friends about these things, and kind of, well, both after they listen to the podcast and then also before, so that I can steal their ideas and say them.
Of course,
I think it's kind of the point of my
you are
role
representing
here, right?
an entire global generation.
I don't
after
think
all.
that. Yeah, I'm not doing that. But yeah. So that's kind of been interesting too, and I think then maybe it for different topics it works differently. Like I think it would be difficult for me to just give, and this is why we decided to do it like that it would be difficult for me to just give like my opinions on the situation in Palestine, but I do have opinions clearly on feminism, or like me, I talk to my friends about these kinds of things. So a lot of my friends have said that they like your voice.
Thank you.
But I mean, for sure, I think some of the conversations are very relevant to like my generation and my friends and all that.
Look who's here.
Hi.
Yeah.
Oh my God, that was
look
loud.
Who's joined. Oh my God.
Why?
It's so loud.
You're so loud.
How are you doing?
I'm good. Sorry, my meeting ran over.
Okay, well, welcome to the podcast.
We were just discussing how I'm the favorite child and how it's been immortalized on the internet in perpetuity. How do you feel?
Well, mommy constantly begs me to quit my job and join the podcast, so I don't think that's doing, yeah. I don't think that's indicating that you're the favorite child.
We think you might have had a little bit of FOMO.
I don't think I have FOMO.
Lidbit, which have you enjoyed of the conversations? Of course, you're a loyal listener. We know that.
Yes. I liked the police violence one a lot. I thought that one was really interesting. You know, she's sort of coming at it from a different perspective, I guess. But like, yeah, that one was really interesting. And I really liked the guest, I guess. I think EJ was my favorite episode, obviously because it's like an area that I am interested in and know a lot about, but also because like she's done a lot of work on engaging people. So I think that she talks about it really well and sort of quite persuasively. And then I liked the Palestinian duo one, Israel-Palestine one. You know, it's not like a both sidesism in the same way that you get in like the news. I thought it was like a cool way to see different perspectives that like ultimately sort of want similar goals.
You know, this is the only thing that I find interesting in terms of like the conversations we have with these folks that are so knowledgeable and so much at the forefront of the issues and trying to make the changes that need to be made, and then how the media covers these issues. Because at what point does it start to make a difference, or have we reached a point where there's so much fatigue and so much fragmentation that people aren't even seeing? In fact, people are actually beginning to question and undermine and say, well, it's not really happening, you know, that the fake news kind of side of the story. So yeah, so I think there's something to be said about interviewing the interviewers in a way, you know, the folks that are often doing the reporting, but to see what it's like from their side.
Another interesting one for next season would be to be someone maybe who works in either in like mainstream news or like not like alternative kind of reporting and stuff like that, and how that is changing. I mean, it's similar, I guess, in a way, kind of bouncing off of what Meredith was talking about, but the whole like fake news and what can we believe and what shouldn't we believe stuff, and like how can we tell, how can we filter through, if we can at all, would be an interesting
also like
one.
a question there about how they see like the fractured media landscape, as people say. Like, does the New York Times, well, I'm sure they do in like monetary senses, but also like influence senses, feel that like their viewership is like more and more just like one group, if that makes sense. Like they're not reaching as widely anymore. There's criticisms from like both sides, and like how do they grapple with that?
So Lyd, how's it? Yeah. First of all, what you know, the conversation that Soleh and I have been having, what do you think about that? And yeah, have you? I love having you with us, obviously. You know, Soleh, that's not to denigrate your position. It's, you know, but what do you think? Like,
Yeah, I mean, I think your conversations have been good. I think we've all learned that when you guys record at 8:30, so like you can really hear it in her voice.
Yeah.
I have learned that Mummy doesn't understand at all what Soleil's PhD is about.
No more questions about the bacteria.
The
He kept trying to
bacteria.
edit things and like fix
I'm
enzyme
just excited
names
about
because they sounded bad.
I read. I'm sorry. I read the first year report. I helped. They sound bizarre. Yeah, thank you very much.
And then, I mean, the rest of the conversations, like we've always sort of talked about lots of these things, especially because like we always sort of wanted to understand. Well, I guess since we've been like conscious people, and by that I mean like, I don't know, older than 16, like we wanted to understand your work and that sort of thing. So we've like talked about that. So these have been conversations we've been having for ages, and it's funny to hear the two of you, because obviously I never hear like me. I'm sure both of us have one-on-one conversations with you, but I never hear the one-on-one conversations between you two. So it's sort of funny to hear that.
Because if you're there, you can't resist talking. So yeah.
Well, if I'm there, it changes the conversation.
Yeah, just a yapper.
Changes the dynamics, doesn't it? No, that's a very, very good point, because we do have these conversations about different things, you know, between us, you know, and but then when the three of us are together, you guys take over and I'm the idiot.
That's not
you know, what
true.
do I know about anything?
I also think like we've always had these conversations with lots of people, like with our aunt. It's like maybe a bit more combative, but like these have always been things that we talk about.
And with friends and stuff.
And with yeah, and we always like fundamentally agree, and I think like in all of those conversations you guys are agreeing, and it's just sort of like how far, like what questions do you ask, how far do you push it, and that sort of thing.
Maybe we should find a topic for the next season that we like viscerally disagree on.
Yeah, there we go. We can think about that. Yeah.
I also think it's nice that like, because a lot of these topics, it's nice to like not pretend to be objective, because they're not topics you can talk about like clinically or objectively, and so it's sort of what you want is someone's perspective, and like sort of the audience, or like I trust you to choose somebody who can tell me about this effectively, and therefore like I want to hear their bias. You know what I mean? Like all these things are opinion topics, and I like want to hear their opinion.
Do you have any last critiques for us? What we should change?
Yeah. Do you have any last critiques? Exactly. And also, what are your friends saying?
I liked the conversations with Soleh after. I thought those were good, because I think, yeah, I mean, I sort of liked the immediate reflections more than necessarily the preview, because even for Soleh's sake, like, you know more about it once you've heard the episode, and so it feels like it makes more sense to do that way. I also I thought that like by the end of the season you're getting better at it, but I think that like actually asking them the central question of like what would you do should like come sooner maybe. And obviously I've just said that I like hearing their bio, but like I think it's nice to have back and forth and the questions and whatever, but the whole like what do you think the key things that are wrong now are, and like how would you fix them, is sort of maybe should come a bit earlier, because that's what we want to know.
We'll try and figure that one out. Going back to your earlier point, I think, again, for me, one of the big things is that it's really nice to get the personality out, right? Like it's you have an expert, and yeah, people can they can stand up and sound like an expert, but to get some element of the human being that exists, and how do they think about things and so forth. I think that's also just really important, because we, especially when it comes to activists, there's a tendency to sort of discount that they might be complete human beings that have a sense of humor or kind of despair and whatever. It's like or have had their moments of disappointment and stuff. So I hope that some of that is coming through as well. And what do you think about having Soleh join me in actually asking questions? We were thinking that maybe if the timing works, we could do it for the last episode of the season, which we are now previewing, which is going to be with Yasmin Raji, the CEO of Swing Left, which is one of the biggest US left-wing grassroots organizations that was out there trying to get the vote out. So we're going to be talking to her about progressive politics, and I'm hoping that Sos will join me. But
I'm excited for Yassi's episode. I think that
what does she know about
it'll be
things?
interesting, and I have been consuming far too many interviews about what went wrong in the election, so it'll be interesting to hear another one. Okay, I'm gonna go now.
We've been yapping for a while.
Bye.
Bye, Lyd.
So Lyd, bye, and bye. Sosie, so according to Lydia, I don't understand your PhD at all, so I'm not allowed to ask about your floating yellow bacteria, which makes me a bit sad.
I mean, you can ask about them, but just don't expect there to be any interesting answers. So
I am forever optimistic, and I'm sure that you will make a breakthrough and change the world.
But the breakthrough won't be in the bacteria, like how the bacteria look or something.
No, well, I would assume that if the bacteria starts eating plastic, it might start to look different.
Well, they do things, No, why would they look different? They look like bacteria.
Whatever.
So maybe she was right. Anyway.
Okay. Well, thank you very much for this fun conversation that we had. I hope the end of term has been fun, and
next week.
Yes, I think that's going to be a good conversation.
Bye.
So, alrighty, talk to you soon. Bye. Love you. Bye. This is an Africa Digital audio production. My executive producer is Pierce Lynch, and it contains original music by Little Monster Media. Remember, you can catch a new episode of If You Were in Charge every Tuesday. A huge thanks from me to the Bosch Academy for making these conversations possible, and to my own organization, ICAN, for allowing me the time to explore these big issues with my guests and spend some time with my daughters. If you want to get in touch, you can find all our social media links on our website, and the link is in the description of the episode. So that's it for If You Were in Charge. I'm Sanam Naraghi Anderlini. See you next time. Bye.